Suicide is a major public health challenge with more than 700,000 deaths each year globally. If you know someone that's thinking of suicide or you're worried about someone you may know, call or text 988. It's toll free anytime for support. And our next guest today is Reshma Kearney. She is based out of Los Angeles, California, and is a trauma informed grief and mindfulness guide. To begin with, could you share with the audience what do you do professionally and why are you really here today to talk on this important topic on World Suicide Prevention Day?
Yeah, thank you, Anshul. I'm happy to be here. As you mentioned, I'm a trauma-informed grief and mindfulness guide, and I create safe spaces for people who are struggling with their mental health and for people who are supporting those who are struggling with their mental health. I also support those who have lost loved ones to suicide. And I fell into this naturally and also unfortunately because I lost my own husband to suicide um, almost exactly 3 years ago, September 30th, 2022. So I'm here today to talk with you because I think it's really important that we start the conversation and maintain the conversation. This is something that we need to talk about beyond today, beyond this month of suicide awareness, because people are being affected by suicide loss and suicidal thoughts. And it's important to let people know that they're not alone and that we can support each other and heal together.
I really liked something you said the other day about recognizing signs of suicide. Um, and you mentioned something about how even though if you were aware of the signs of suicide, you don't believe that you could have prevented this. Could you elaborate more on this?
Yeah, I actually have a love-hate relationship with the suicide prevention campaigns. Look for the signs of suicide because when I reflect on my loss, there were no signs. And when I say signs, it's what we've learned to look for, which are somebody giving away their possessions, somebody saying, I want to die, disconnecting, losing interest. None of those things were evident in my late husband's final year of life. And so I like to, and we've talked about this before, it's more about looking for the risks of suicide and maybe then becoming more aware of where somebody's mental state is at the time. I think that saying that there are signs of suicide puts a lot of pressure and guilt on the survivors of suicide. And so while I think there should be conversation and we should know what to look for, we have to remember that every case is different and there aren't always signs.
Okay, so when I hear gauge like the level of risk, I think of like low risk, medium risk, high risk. At what point or what signs indicate that urgent intervention is required? Like at what point would you say, based on the level of risk that you are noticing, what would be some signs that you would say are high risk? This person needs immediate help. Forget confidentiality. What can I do? What resources can I get right now?
Yeah. Yeah, if a person is saying, I don't want to be here, I don't want to live, I want to die, and then you see that the person has access to means, maybe the person has a plan, maybe the person verbalizes what they would do or why they would not want to be here anymore. I think those are high risk situations. And in that case, it's really important to be with that person, hold space for that person, either physically or keep them on the phone. Ask
Mhm.
them, be direct. Are you thinking about suicide? I think that we just in general, people are afraid to talk about suicide, to ask somebody about suicidal thoughts because we think that we're going to plant the idea, but we're not. We're going to do the opposite. If we keep talking about it and we talk about it with somebody, we are letting people know it's okay to talk about it, right? We're creating a safe environment for someone who's struggling to come out and say, I'm having these thoughts, I need help. So I think when risks do seem high and you've had this conversation and you hear that there are these thoughts and you think there's an immediate risk, it's best to call 988, text 988, and maybe even consider going to your local emergency services.
Thank you for sharing that. And in the event that you notice that, the risk is not that high, what would be certain things that one could do immediately to provide comfort to the person who's in distress? There's so many things, Reshma, I find that people say that aggravate the situation. I understand they're not mental health trained professionals.
Mhm.
So, what awareness can we create to ensure that people don't say the wrong thing, rather say things that can support their well-being in that moment?
Well, we're all human. So when somebody comes to us hurting, what's the first thing we want to do? We want to fix the problem, right? We want our struggling friend to see all the amazing things that they have in their life and look, the sun is shining, be grateful. But the thing is, when somebody gets to a point where they want to end their life, they are beyond comprehension of gratitude and the bright side of things. They're in a really dark place. And so the best thing somebody supporting a friend or a loved one can do is just sit with them, let them speak, show them with your eyes and your body language, if you're there in person, that you are holding space for them. Assure them that you hear them, you see that they're struggling, and you want to help. And if you can get that person to start opening up about thoughts, then start talking about safety. What can we do in the next hour to make you feel safer?
Mhm.
What can we do to help you? Who on the outside do you think you could trust enough to talk to? And then bridge the connection with the support. Ask them if ask them if they would be comfortable calling 988. Like, would you be comfortable? I'll sit here with you. I will stay on the line with you. We'll call together. Or can we look up a helpline in the area? Get on the computer and do that. Just let them know that you see them and that you're not judging how they're feeling. You want to help them.
There are a lot of gems in this for sure. I know this is a short conversation, but
Mhm.
just hitting the nail right there. Your approach, I do agree. I think your approach matters, and creating that space for them where they don't feel judged will
Mhm.
determine whether they're even willing to listen to the resources you're about to offer,
Mhm.
or whether they're just
Yeah.
tuning you out, like, oh, they don't get it, they don't, no one understands my pain.
Yeah.
And so I love what you said about making them feel seen. By that, you mean make their pain feel seen, right?
Mhm.
And do not be afraid to ask them, have you considered suicide? Because I love that you mentioned that, because we are afraid. There is fear in asking that question. And you're absolutely right. You're not planting a seed. You're actually helping them open up. And it's a form of expression, which may help them process their emotions in that moment in real time.
Mhm.
Reshma, I'm so sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
Imagine how the last few years have looked like for you. When someone is in distress, often the community doesn't know, how to respond, what to say, and that's understandable. But for someone that has lost someone to suicide, healing is so different. The approach is so different of how do you support that individual. I noticed, 9 years ago when my twin brother passed away, that the community showed up, but eventually, like, life moves on and people moved on, and I've not heard from a lot of these people in the
Mhm.
last 8 years. And so, what would you share some tips? How can we as a community support individuals who have lost someone to suicide?
My advice would be take it slow, be gradual, and be patient because it's a really sensitive type of loss. It also has a lot of complexities that even those of us who've lost our person to suicide don't understand, right? So, like you said, there's so many things that are happening in grief after suicide loss. um, don't ask questions. Again, just like you would support someone who's having suicidal thoughts, take the same approach when supporting someone who's lost somebody to suicide. Just give them space, just be there. Don't ask questions don't ask about details. Don't pass on your own judgment of the situation. Don't ask if they saw signs. It's really hard to comprehend what has just happened and then to have to explain it to other people and feel judged by it. That makes the pain even harder. And I think that whether you're supporting someone who's lost someone to suicide or to any other cause, write down the day that it happened and keep track of milestone days, especially that first year,
Mhm.
right? Check in on that first birthday that they didn't get to celebrate together. Check in on the first anniversary. Don't stop saying the person's name or sharing memories of that person. Keep their memory alive.
Mhm.
Um, the hard thing about suicide loss is that there's so much stigma around it that the people who are left behind feel embarrassed and judged, and we feel like we're carrying on the judgment that maybe their person had. And so, we have to remove the tendency to define people by their mental health. We have to just be more compassionate.
Thank you for sharing that, Reshma. I
Thanks.
appreciate the work you continue to do to break stigma across the world and relentlessly pursue this path. Is there any advice as we wrap this up that you'd like to share to someone that's tuned in that's perhaps not doing very well and contemplating suicide?
I would say give yourself grace and be gentle with yourself. And just remember that our emotions are temporary and suicide is not. And you just never know what's going to happen tomorrow, next week, a year from now. And you owe it to yourself to find out. And don't give up.
And where can people find you, Reshma?
The best place is on Instagram. My handle is Reshma Kearney, and my DMs are always open.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for being here once again. We appreciate you. And we're looking forward to collaborating more on future events. Hopefully,
Me
we'll
too.
have you down here next year for our Canada's Top Mental Health Advocate Awards. It happens every year on July 12th. And yeah, keep going. And if there's anything we can do to offer support, we're with you.
We have to keep talking. Our stories connect us, and that's what we need right now is connection.